All right, so here's the example 5 from the notes that we had. So first thing you're going to do, now this is factoring out the common factor. So first thing we're going to do is look to see if we can factor anything out of all of these numbers. And the variables too, if we can factor a variable out. In this case, we can't factor a variable out. We can factor 3 out. So we bring that 3, we write it up front, then we divide each of these by that 3. Alright, and it leaves us with 2x squared plus 9x minus 5. Alright, then we want to see if we can factor this out further. So again, this is where we have a leading coefficient, so we got to do our little box. Again, we put our 2x in the top of each side. We multiply 2 times 5 gives us 10, and then we want the factors of 10 that when we subtract them, we get a 9, all right, and that will be 10 and 1. So we're going to put over here in the bottom 10 and 1. Signs are different. The bigger one has to get the plus, so the 10 gets the plus, and the 1 gets the minus. Then we can factor a 2 out of this, gives us an x, and that gives us a positive 5. All right, so we bring our 3 down. You keep that, doesn't go away. And then in the first set of parentheses, we have x plus 5. And then in the second set of parentheses, we can't factor anything out of that, so we have 2x minus 1. All right, so the only thing new there was we factored out a common factor. All right, so now if we look at the second one, again, we're going to look at it and we're going to see if we can factor out a common factor. In this case, the common factor would be 4 because all these are divisible by 4 and that's the biggest number. So we would factor the 4 out, bring it out front, divide each of these by that 4, and then what is left over we put down here. So it leaves us with 2x squared plus 7x and then minus 30. Again, we want to factor this out completely. So what we got to do is we got to factor what's inside the parentheses out. So again, we got a leading coefficient. So we got to do our box again. So a 2x and a 2x. All right. And then we multiply 2 times 30 gives us 60. And we want the factors of 60 that when we subtract it, we get a 7. And the factors of 60 that when you subtract them, you get a 7 would be 5 times 12. All right. So 5 goes in one, 12 goes in the other. Signs are different. The bigger one, again, has to get the plus sign because the middle sign's plus. So plus here, minus here. All right, so we bring down our 4 again. Don't forget about that. First set of parentheses, we can't factor anything out of 2x minus 5, so we bring it over. And then we can factor a 2 out. So we make that a 1 and make that a 6. So we get x plus 6. All right, and that's how we factor it out. All right, I don't want you to do this first one. I don't want you to do the second one, but I do want you to do the third one. All right, so what you should do is pause the video real quick, all right, and then do this and then come back to the video. All right, all right, so you should have it done it now if you pause the video. So then we're going to factor a 2 out. Again, divide them all by 2. Gives us 2w squared minus 3w plus 1. All right, again, we got a leading coefficient, so we got to do our box. 2w, 2w. Multiply 2 times 1 is 2. We want the factors of 2 that add up to 3, and that would be 2 and 1. Last sign's a plus sign, so signs are the same, and they're both negative. So a negative and a negative. All right, and then that we can factor a 2 out, which leaves us with a w and a minus 1. So we got, again, we bring down that 2. And then first set of parentheses, we got w minus 1. And then we can't factor anything out of that. So we just bring down 2w minus 1. All right, so again, that was factoring out when there was a constant term, something you could factor out. All right, the next thing, we're talking about the zeros of the function. All right, the zeros of the function, they're also called the roots of a function. You may hear them called that. All right, they're called the roots. But what it is, it's where the your graph, remember these are parabolas, So it's going to be where the graph intercepts the x-axis. So what we're doing is we're looking for those. Those are the zeros. And those occur when y is equal to 0. All right? So that's what we're looking for when we ask for the zeros of the function. All right? So now, if we look at this first one, we have y equals 3x squared minus x minus 4. So what we do again is we're going to find the zeros. So it's when y is 0. So the easiest thing to do is just get rid of this on the back side and then just set equals 0 on that side. All right? So you get rid of the y equals and you change it to equals 0 and then you find the zeros. So what we got to do is we got to factor it out. Again, we got a leading coefficient. So we put our box, put a 3x in the top of each one. Multiply 3 times 4 is 12. We want the factors of 12. When you subtract it, you get a 1, and that would be 3 and 4. So again, 3 and 4. The signs are different because last sign's a minus sign, and the bigger one's got to be negative. So 4 is bigger than 3, so the 4 gets the negative, the 3 gets the positive. All right? Then we can factor a 3 out of both of these, so this becomes an x, and this becomes a plus 1. So it gives us x plus 1. And then the 3x minus 4, we can't factor anything out of it, so we leave it as 3x minus 4. All right, now we find the 0, so we got to finish this off. So we set x plus 1 equals 0. You would subtract 1 from both sides, and you get x equals negative 1. All right, and then the other one, you got 3x minus 4 equals 0. So we would add 4, get 3x equals 4, and then we would divide by 3, and we would get x equals 4/3. So we get two answers, x equals 4/3 and x equals negative 1. All right? All right, so again, going through the steps of doing this, we're finding the zeros of this function. To find the zeros, so when y is equal to 0. So you get rid of the y equals, and on the back side, you just write equals 0. All right, and now we just solve this. So again, we got a leading coefficient, so we got to do our box. 4x and a 4x. All right, and then we multiply 4 times 15 gives us 60. We want the factors of 60. That when we subtract them, we get a 17, which would be 3 times 20. So we got 3 and 20. Last sign's a minus sign, so signs are different. Bigger one's got to be negative because the middle sign's negative. So a minus here, plus here. Can't factor anything out of that, so we get 4x plus 3. Can factor a 4 out of this, so that leaves us with an x minus 5. Now all we got to do is set these equal to 0 and solve. So 4x plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 3, and we get 4x equals negative 3, and then divide by 4. So we get x equals negative 3/4. So that's our one answer. And then we take our x minus 5, we set that equal to 0, add 5 to both sides, and we get x equals 5. So that's how we get our 2 zeros for that problem. All right, so you're going to do the checkpoint, and what I'm going to do is I will come back and I will give you the answers later on for those checkpoints so you can see them. All right.